Alrighto. So uh, everything run perfectly, no errors so far. Uh, the project backend is now supposedly finished. So let's see what's happening in Cursor. I am in Cursor. I just, hide these panels. Let me hide that one again. So there's a lot of things that happen that we will discuss in a minute. But if we look at our website, basically everything still looks fine. I love this. It looks really good. But let's go to the shop because that's where the main changes has been made. And as you can see, uh, could not load products. There's errors in the database. We need to add the correct keys on the one hand, and on the other hand, we need to run the migration. So the migration is just a SQL file that we can paste straight into Supabase via the SQL editor to set up everything for us. In that SQL database, probably what will be in there, because it's called migration, is all the coffees that was already on the website anyway, so we don't have to enter them manually or anything like that. So let's start off with Supabase, and we're now going to do some detailed Supabase training and upskilling so you understand Supabase perfectly. And yes, we're going to use the Supabase CLI. So if you haven't heard about CLI, it means it's a command line interpreter, and that means that your cursor can directly speak to Supabase, so you don't have to copy tables over or functions over. Cursor will do it for us. All right, so the first thing in Supabase, if you haven't created the account yet, please do so. And if you start off in Supabase, this is very much what you will see, a dashboard. Now, to look at the dashboard, you'll find that you have different projects. Each project is a database. For instance, I can click on Rebel Glitch and you can see what's happening. There's statistics. You can go to the tables. As an example, if I click on database, this takes a little longer, but it shows you all kinds of interactions of what tables you have and things like that. Or you can go straight to tables, showing you all your database tables. And as you can see, I've got a lot. All right. Then you have your SQL editor, where you can copy paste SQL code in, or if you're good enough with SQL, you can just query, for instance, or add things straight from here to your SQL database. Another way, of course, to add things will be to go to a table directly. Let's take that one, AIO. There's nothing in there. Let's get a table with stuff in there. What's in test? Here's one, for instance. So you can also insert a new field straight from the table editor yourself, one by one. We're not going to do that. Obviously, what we're going to say is if we want to add products, we want a front end where we can easily add products, images, and so forth. Now, something else, like I said, let me just go back. The bot shop is an organization, and each project is a database, right? I'll click again on Rebel Glitch. And yes, you saw there's table editors, SQL editors. You can have a big overview of the database and all its tables and how they link with one another, because you can link tables one with another. Another thing is that if you scroll down a little bit, you'll go to the storage area. And storage areas is where you can save your PDF files, save your images, and so forth, right? Videos even. And you can see if I go to my storage, they talk about buckets. So buckets is the name for a folder, really. All right, so yeah, I've got a lot of different buckets. Let's find one there's one that says course images. Inside the bucket, of course, I can have more buckets, subfolders. For instance, there's one that's called courses. And if I click on a folder and I click on image or images in the folder, it will come back with an image, the saved image, that is. So you can just simply also say get URL. Once you have it, just look how fast this is. I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to type the URL or just basically paste it. You can see it's quite a big URL, but once I hit enter, look how fast it appears, right? So storing things in a Supabase bucket is probably the best way to go about. Now what we will do is, for instance, if you're going to add products to this coffee shop, we're going to create a front end. And one of the things that will be asked on that front end is to include images. So if you have images on your hard drive, things that you've maybe created yourself, product images and so forth, you will basically click on it, or you will say, upload image. It will show your hard drive. You click on the image and it will basically come to Supabase and store it in this storage buckets. Then we have edge functions, and we're going to work a lot with edge functions. But to give you an idea, here's all my edge functions, and there's a lot. So an edge function, and I know I'm sort of explaining things we did previously, but we did it some time back, right? So it's basically a refresher as well. Edge function will store what the database should do, and it will store it on the edge of your Supabase. So you have your database, right? And around it is all your functions. This means that, let's say, your TypeScript, your JavaScript that you wrote says show me image ABC, maybe a ID number, ID code or something. That's all it's going to say, but it will invoke the function. Inside the function is what is the table, what is the database name, things like that. So it is never in your code. All right, that by itself makes your security so much better, but it's also so much faster. Else it is up and down all the time, where you can now send something to a function. The function will go grab the image, the price, everything you can imagine, and send that over basically to the customer immediately. And it can even, instead of going back to your JavaScript and then you display it to the customer, it can just send everything to the guy's browser, and it just seems 10 times faster. So that's functions. You're going to see how the functions look like and how the functions work. Back to my company information. Now, something about Supabase is you can have more than one company. If you click here on the arrows, you'll see I have two different companies set up, or they call it organizations, and you can create more organizations, right? So I have one that's just simply called Playground. This is the one that we're going to work with. So let's go to the Playground organization, and you can see I have one project in here. Now, interesting is once you create while you create a new organization, and let's do that, you can ask it what plan that organization should be under. And yes, you have free plans, and you can use that free plans for different organizations. I think you can have up to 3 projects for free on your whole Supabase account. So yes, we're going to play on a free database. So under Playground, the company, here's the projects. I only have one so far. I want to see what happens if I say new project. Playground, yes, and it is still going to be free, right? And you give your project a name, a password, the region. I don't think they have South Africa here, but these days it doesn't matter because everything you have here will be replicated on other servers around the world. And then you need to tell it what security you want, and always enable RLS, create an event trigger that automatically enables row level security whenever a table is going to be made. Although we even said it in our own cursor, it will be enforced here, and you can create the new project without it costing you any money, I think. Let's use that. Create a new project. If there's any time costs involved, it will first tell you, look, there's costs involved. Right. So going back to my Playground, there's a second project. It's getting set up right now, so there's not a lot you can do with it yet. Back to Playground, and here's the project that we're going to work with. As you can see, at this point there's no edge device or edge functions, tables, there's no tables. So we're going to create it, but instead of us creating it, we're going to let Cursor create it using what's called the command line interpreter. So a command line interpreter basically means it's a direct connection from Cursor straight to Supabase, and Supabase and Cursor can communicate, and Cursor can do things like, hey, create a new table, add this function, things like that. But you can also communicate straight with Supabase if you so wish. We're going to do it actually in the next video. So I think that's it for now. This was just a very quick run through of what we've done in the past. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.